Welcome to Let's Talk Merrimack. I'm your host for today, Mary Beth Raven, and I've lived here in Merrimack for over 30 years. The goal of this show is to talk about things that concern Merrimack residents and encourage you to get involved in the town. Today's show focuses on one of our candidates for Congressional District 1, that is, our representative to Congress in Washington, D.C. And I would like to welcome Bill Conlin.
Hey, thank you.
So why don't we start by having you briefly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your motivation for running.
Oh, sure. I'm Bill Conlin. I'm Democrat from the great city of Dover, and I'm running for New Hampshire Congressional District 1. And really the reason behind this is that, basically our society right now is an absolute dumpster fire. And after the last election, I started to focus really hard on how did we get into this and how did we get out of this? And pretty much what I realized was that we were warned about this probably about 50 years ago. And that was in a speech that President Jimmy Carter gave at the time, one that the right media calls the malaise speech. And what he was saying in this was, at that time, he realized that we had lost that progress on social and economic progress over the course of the New Deal and the Great Society because our values had changed as a society. We became a society that was starting to value wealth over people. And he was warning the nation and trying to get us to understand that the reason that we'd lost that progress is because of that switch in values. And if we continue down that road, we would wind up ultimately losing pretty much everything that we accomplished over those 45 years. And we went down that road. We had a court that codified our change in values by ruling in favor of money in Citizens United. Mm-hmm. And then they continued taking away all of those things that we had accomplished over the 45 years with taking away the rights of women. And currently they've completely gutted the Voting Rights Act. And so what I was trying to figure out is, how did we get into this? How do we get out of this? And really what I saw was that Carter was right. What we need to do is we need to change our values. We need to become a society that values people again instead of wealth. And my campaign is designed my campaign is not taking any money whatsoever, because I want it to be a campaign that truly values only people and not wealth. And I think that I can show people, and I often do when I go out and talk, show them that money that is in politics really is valueless in terms of getting people to vote for you and getting elected. And I want to show people that, because then if they understand that the money has nothing to do with it, they will ask more of their elected officials, and they will say to them, listen, I know you're not getting it from your donors. You did not get this job from your donors. You got it from the people. You have to put your efforts into helping the people rather than worrying about that wealth of the donors. So that's why I decided to do it. I was hoping somebody else would do it. I was hoping somebody else would come to this. No one else did.
Kind of like the way I keep hoping somebody will clean the bathroom, right?
Right,
and
yeah.
Finally,
and I was just like, well, maybe somebody will do it. There's 6 of them. But then eventually I said, okay, nobody's going to do this. I think that this is really important. I think that regardless of how I do or how it is received, I think it's an important message to get across to our community and to our society, because I don't think anyone's happy with where our society is right
and
now.
when you say nobody else is going to do this, and none of the other candidates are taking this kind of social moral stance of like no money, we really need to focus on kind of changing our values to focus on the people.
And I didn't want it to be a situation where it was just like, okay, I'm just not taking money. I wanted it to be, I'm not taking money for a very specific reason, and that very specific reason is to show you that it really doesn't have any value in representative democracy, in the election process. The things that it buys, things like signs, ads, and literature, are things that do not influence, they only remind. When you go by a sign, it reminds you there's a person with a certain name running for a certain position. It doesn't have any influence on you. If you're influenced already through some other means, like watching a show like this, if you're influenced by some other means, then it reminds you that, hey, you either like this person or you don't like this person, and you will vote for them or you won't vote for them. But it does not have influence. It can only remind.
Okay. So you're not taking any money, but
Right.
are you asking people to help with your
Of
campaign?
course I am. This is the whole point. I'm trying to show people that they really are the power behind all of this. And what it is, and I spent about 10 years working on elections, everything from president, well, not working, but volunteering for everything from presidential all the way down to like school board. And really what it is what I found is it's about getting people to talk about your campaign and talk nicely about your campaign. So right now when we're talking, and the people that are watching this, what they take away from this is the real influence. It's the first start of it. It's where the rubber meets the road. It's why all candidates come out. And so what they're going to take away from this, they're going to talk to their friends, their neighbors, their family members, their coworkers, people that have an interest in doing the right thing, but they don't have time for all of this. And they know they have this friend that pays attention to this stuff, and they go to them and say, what are we going to do? And they say, well, go with candidate A or go with candidate B. And that's really every election since George Washington that has happened. We've gotten to the point where we've fallen so in love with the idea that money is going to pay for everything that we've forgotten that it really is just all ground game. And when our elected officials get to office and they go, well, the donors want this, the people want that, that should never be a choice at all, because it's only the people that are really getting these people their job. And I also want to regain people's trust in this institution as well as in leadership by being able to do this and do this knowing that it's not like I have a secret $1 million anywhere. I'm just a blue-collar worker. I'm doing this on my own dime. I'll probably wind up spending less than $1,000 on the entire
Okay, so that was going to be one of my other questions. It's not like you're a millionaire and you're self-financing this.
But it's, I have enough money to buy business cards. I have enough money to buy lapel stickers, and I can afford a $4 website for people to go to. And so I can come out and do things like this. It doesn't cost me any money. You're not charging me to be here. I was with a group last night in Guilford. They didn't charge me anything to be there. It's just a question of getting there and being able to talk to them and showing people that the amount of influence that money has over the candidate is far too excessive, because that money really isn't doing anything for that candidate. That candidate and those elected officials need to focus solely on valuing people rather than wealth.
Okay, so if you were to be elected, it's good to know that you would not feel any beholden to the fossil fuel industry or the pharmaceutical industry or anything like that. But let's talk about some of your views or your so let's talk about, what are your views on Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and the Affordable Care Act?
I am in favor of all of those things. Obviously, I think that we really need to do more in terms of Social Security, especially coming up over the next year or so. We have a really, really difficult year coming up when you consider the whole Strait of Hormuz thing, where we've lost all this fertilizer that we're not going to be able to meet our needs in terms of food across the globe. When you think in terms of how much home heating oil is going to cost next year, as well as gas and even electricity, since it's natural gas that fires up most of our electrical plants. When you look at all of those costs that are coming in, the people that are going to get hurt the most, especially in the state of New Hampshire, are going to be the elderly. People on Social Security. We have a really serious hunger issue among elderly within our state because of this. And I think that going forward, we need to do a better job of making sure we're giving enough money to our senior citizens, also protecting Medicare and increasing Medicaid. And honestly, Medicare for all is 100% behind that. I really think that I've been arguing for stuff like that since I was in high school in the early 80s, and it's always been the right way to go. Society should care for others. They should care for others, help them get their food, help them get shelter, help them get medicine, and help them get an education. Those are the four things that all society should be doing for the individuals. We pay taxes, we follow the rules, we look out for others. There should be some reward in that, and that reward is that social safety net.
Yeah, certainly historically we talk about the common good is what our
Yes,
forefathers
exactly.
phrased
Our
it as.
first two colonies, Virginia and Massachusetts, are both commonwealths. They still call themselves commonwealths. So yes, that is very much part of our American history that we seem to forget.
So talk to me a little bit about your background. What gives you the experience or skill set that would make you a good legislator?
Well, I don't know whether I'm going to be a good legislator or not. What I have in terms of like my experience in history is I went to the University of Massachusetts Amherst after graduating Nashua High School, so I grew up just right next door. But I went to the University of Massachusetts Amherst. I have a degree in economics. I went out and I've been a blue-collar worker ever since then. And it's never been a real dream of mine to sort of be in politics or be an elected official. I've always had an interest in politics. About 10 years ago, 2015, 2016, Bernie Sanders came to New Hampshire and was running that campaign. I volunteered early with it. I spent about 6 months just knocking on doors and making phone calls, and really fell in love with like sort of campaign politics, and always was like, maybe I should just do this. This is a lot of fun for me. I like knocking on doors and talking with people.
Oh, well, God love you.
And yeah,
I hate knocking on doors.
I get it. But like, no, but like, and I started to sort of watch it and understand it and sort of get a feel. And a lot of times we go in and we go, what are the issues that push your buttons? And a lot of times I was asking, so who is it that influences you the most in terms of how you determine whether or not you're going to vote for someone? What is it? And that's where you start to learn it isn't the signs, it isn't the ads, it's really the people. All power comes from the people, and it is their friends, neighbors, family members, and coworkers that are the ones that ultimately get them on board, rather than even me standing on their doorstep. So I did that for, I've been doing that for about 10 years. I've served in leadership in local Democratic committees, the Dover Dems, and then, like everyone who gets involved in politics in the state of New Hampshire, someday that phone call comes where they say, we need a state rep. And because we need 400 of them, and they're tough to find.
Right, we've got the largest legislature in the nation.
So that phone call finally came, and I said, I knew this was coming, and I'll see what I can do. And so I wound up giving up 3 years of vacation and sick time at work so that I could do the bare minimum of legislature work.
So you have been New Hampshire state representative.
I served there for one term, 2 years. I'm technically the honorable, because they give you $100 a year and a title, and those $100 are gone, so I'm keeping the title. So yeah, but that taught me a lot in terms of, do I think I can do this? Yes, I do. I am, believe it or not, less impressed today with politicians than I was before I got involved with it. Now that I've been through it, I go, they're just like you and me. They're only as smart as you and me. So I think that I could be effective. And I think I could be effective mostly because, like, I genuinely am just trying to do this to try and clean up my society and try and get people to understand that they have all the power they need to do it and 100% control. They just have to I just have to get them to see it, and I know that we can change our society this way, and I'm really trying to do, in about 4 to 6 years, get us from a point where we are now a society that values wealth to one being that finally values people again, and we can get back on that track that we had 100 years ago, from the 1930s to the 1970s, where we really were that nation. So.
It's a very, very tall ask to make such a huge cultural change,
Yeah.
but it's a laudable goal. So I'm going to ask a relatively complicated tax question right now.
Okay.
So like here in Merrimack, right, for the past 2 years, the school's proposed budget has not been supported by voters, right?
Right.
And our property taxes are skyrocketing.
Right.
And the voters of Merrimack are, they're strapped financially.
Well, without
But
doubt.
but I'd say they don't necessarily realize that the public school financial needs are directly related to the federal and state tax cuts for the wealthy.
Oh, yeah.
As a member of Congress, how do you envision your platform helping the public education students of New Hampshire?
I am 100% behind the idea that we should be taxing the rich, and I mean really taxing the rich. A lot of the problems that we have right now, especially after the big beautiful bill where we've once again added $3 trillion to the deficit, here's some of the problem that we have. When you're running deficits, that is what causes inflation, believe it or not. It's modern monetary theory is what it's called. But that is what causes that inflation. There's too much money in circulation. And all of that lion's share of that money, that extra money that we're putting in, is just tax cuts for them. If you take those tax cuts away, if you start running surpluses like we did in the late 90s in the Clinton administration, when we had surpluses, we were paying less than $1 for gas. We were paying, $1.50 for a Big Mac. People could afford things. So affordability is really important. When we see those tax bills that come out locally, they're like, I'm tapped out. You can't get blood from a stone. That's one of the important things that we've got to do. The other thing is we have to start funding these things. We really need to understand that one of those pillars is education, and the reason behind that is you have to give people a chance to really go out and be able to contribute to your society in the future the best way that they know how, and the best way they know how is to do the things that they really want to do. You don't have to have, everybody doesn't have to be a doctor, everybody doesn't have to be an engineer. You still need auto mechanics, but we need to get those people that want to be auto mechanics and engineers and doctors and make it more affordable for them to do it. I think the tuition-free public education in colleges is important. I think that if years ago we said, first through 12, that's free because that's all you need to form the middle class. Well, you need the college now to get into the middle class. That should be our obligation to future generations. We're going to get you what you need to get into the middle class, and right now it's college, so college should be tuition free. That should be on us.
Well, that was going to be my next question, was going to be about college tuition. So you segued right into that. So let's talk a little bit about affordable housing, and certainly rent is a big issue here in Merrimack right now because it's gone up a lot. So what, if any, legislative tools would you propose at the federal level to make housing more affordable for people in Merrimack?
Okay, so this is my big idea. Okay, we're heading into a tough time. We're going to need to put people to work because I know when the gas hits $6 a gallon, not going to be a lot to spend on other things, and our economy is going to start shutting down. We're going to start getting people laid off. We're going to need people to put people to work. My big plan is to finally have a system of public housing, much like they have in Europe, that is not warehousing of poor. It is not slums. It is public housing. It is a place where your mother, when she gets old enough, she can move into public housing because it's a little more affordable. It's a place where young professionals who are just out of college starting a family, they want to buy a house. They go into these places because it's fixed for them based on their income, and they can be able to put a little bit aside. Right now, people in the state of New Hampshire, I know myself, I'm paying way more than that 20 or 25% of my take-home pay that they say you're supposed to be spending on housing. People could use that, young people could use that to be able to save up to buy a house on the private market. And then of course you'd still have like the single parent that has the 2 kids that needs that break. And what you do now, by getting rid of a lot of the means testing, all of a sudden you're building a community that has some power. When you warehouse poor and things go wrong, and they show up and say everything is wrong here, they go, we don't care, you're poor, you have no power. If you put in middle class people, if you put in young professionals, if you put in retirees that are used to a higher standard of living, and there's light bulbs out, they're going to call up, and suddenly whoever's in charge of that, whether it's the local housing committee or the mayor, is going to get that phone call and go, okay, these people understand power and they understand voting and all of that, so we have to make sure that this is a good, safe community for everyone.
Okay. But how would you pay for that?
By taxing the rich.
Okay. All right. So clearly, politics is very bifurcated right now. It's very polarized. So how would you build bipartisan coalition on issues like healthcare and this big housing idea that you've got?
I think the way that I will be building it or trying to build it is really what I'm doing right now. I have worked my entire life in blue collar. Everyone that I've been surrounded by is people who you would describe as
But you said you
MAGA.
went to college with a degree in economics. So just out of curiosity, what is it that you did professionally that's blue collar?
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. I've worked auto repair. I've worked, I was a truck driver. I drove across this country for 12 years. And currently, right now, I work in a factory making auto parts.
Okay.
So it has always been blue collar. It has always been something where I shower when I get home rather than when I get up. And but like the whole thing is I'm well aware of these people and what they believe in, and I think what they really want, what these people really want is they just want to feel like they matter. And this is a lot of where they are in their anger, is they feel like it's still the money. It's the money that's keeping them from having these nice things. The politicians only listen to that money. And that's why I know that this crosses that aisle. And those people over there, maybe not every Republican, but there's a solid section of that MAGA group that will look at that and say, this is a guy we can get behind. This is a guy that's trying to do the right thing for the right reason, and he's one of us, and he does understand our issues and our concerns, and he does care about us. So I'm hoping to use that, because when we talk about like how are we going to get all of this support and whatnot, it really boils down to once you have enough people behind you, once you have that movement, like for example, the president has all of those people behind him. He's able to get people to move because of that. Once you get those people behind you and you show up there and you say, look at all of these people that I have, politicians tend to go, okay, you're on to something. I'd rather be in front of the parade than being run over by it. And I think I can get people to come on board and really just push that narrative that these are things that value people. They're not things that value wealth, and the way we get out of it is by valuing those people.
Okay. Well, that's I'm going to ask this question anyway. So, right, Congressional District 1 is flipped back and forth, Republican and Democrat, back and forth. So my question was, how do you plan to appeal to Republicans?
Basically, same way. I think that a lot of what I'm trying to, and a lot of the reason why I had to sort of come out and do this is when I was thinking about this, I'm like, I might be the best person for this because of my background and because of my history with a lot of these people and really sort of understanding their issues and their concerns. I've been to their weddings, I've been to their funerals, I've been to their kids' birthday parties. I think they recognize me. People who don't know me, I think they will recognize me because I understand the language and the concerns and all of that, and I think that they'll be willing to trust me, especially since what I'm doing is addressing this huge issue that they have where they feel like they're being boxed out by that money, and here's a guy who's at least trying to do right by them.
Okay. Let's do a quick lightning round of getting to know you a little bit better. All right. Cats or dogs?
I love dogs, but since now I'm wondering, I'm going to I'm gonna pander to the cat ladies. I
Okay.
have friends who have cats, and I like cats, but I just had a terrible one when I was a kid, so I always hated them. But they're okay. I'd rather have a dog, though.
And what's the best sandwich?
The best sandwich is, God, I always loved the Italian sandwich at River Bend, but River Bend in Dover's going out of business. But I do like a good Italian if they toast the bun.
What's your favorite place in New Hampshire?
Dover, New Hampshire, where I live. I always take a staycation. It works out well for me because I don't have any money to go anywhere, and I just happen to live in the one place that I think is honestly, I moved there in the early 90s. When I first moved there in the early 90s, I drove there. It was all depressed. It was run down. And I looked around and I said, I don't know why, but this is my Mayberry. This is where I want to live. This is going to be my hometown, and I'm still there.
Well,
so.
last summer when I drove through, it didn't look depressed or whatever. It was lovely. In the
Yes, it
summertime.
is, and they're doing their best to make sure I can't afford to live there much longer. So.
Yeah. So this has been a very short conversation, and I'm sure that you have a lot more to say. But how can voters learn more?
Oh, well, there is Bill Conlin 4.us is the website. Or we're also on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at Bill Conlin for us. The number is 4. Okay. And hopefully they'll print that stuff on the screen and people can see it. But come on out and see me. I really sort of go through all of why I think that money is not going to help you, or why that money doesn't have value. And I think you'll really get it, and hopefully you'll be empowered when you're done.
Okay. Well, thank you, Bill. And Merrimack, that is our show for today. And we'd like to hear ideas for shows from you. So reach out at talkmerrimack@gmail.com and follow us on Facebook or Blue Sky. And I look forward to our next conversation.